ran across this fascinating doctoral study. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, fascinating doctoral study, but it was. And it was called B.L.E.S.S versus Converters. B.L.E.S.S versus Converters. And the study was based on two teams of missionaries, and they both went to Thailand. Two teams of missionaries went to Thailand, but they went with two distinctly different missional strategies. The one team, the converters, they went with the sole intention of just trying to convert people, to evangelize people, or to save souls, as they would have said. Then there were the blessers. And the blessers, they went out with just the intention of being a blessing. They said, we're just going to bless. We're just going to bless whoever comes our way. The study followed both these teams for 2 years. Here's what they discovered. First, they discovered the blessers. Their presence in the community resulted in what they called tremendous amounts of social capital or social good. They made the society better. It was a better community life because of them. No difference with the converters group. But here's the second thing they discovered. This was surprising. The blessers had 50 times as many conversions as did the converters. In fact, they saw 100 people say yes to Jesus, converting, where the converters actually saw 2 who actually found and decided to follow Jesus. And they walked away from this doctoral thesis, this study, and said the best way, to love your neighbor, the best way to share God's love was to be a blesser. And I was like, hold it, what? Then, on top of it, I ran across an eye-opening study from a research group called the Barna Research Group, where they asked, guys, your friends, your neighbors, they asked them, think about that person again. What would you value in a person with whom you'd talk about spiritual things? What would you value within a person with whom you'd talk about spiritual things? Here were the top 3 things your neighbors, the people that are your friends are looking for before they're going to talk about spiritual things. Number 1, they said, we're looking for someone who will listen to me without judgment. Listen to me without judgment. Listening is one of the purest acts of love. And here was the sad news in the research. 2/3 of the people who they surveyed said they had no one in their life who would actually listen to them without judgment. How sad is that? And I'll tell you what, as I reflected on my early attempts, I shared with you, my focus was often on what I would say and that I would do the talking. And if I did ask a question, it was not so I could actually listen. It was actually so I could kind of maneuver the conversation to give me a chance to respond with a clever answer. People are looking for others who will listen without judgment. And that's something we're all capable of doing. Here's the second quality of someone who they'd want to talk to, your neighbors and your friends, about spiritual things. Second thing, someone who will allow me to draw my own conclusions. What I've had to realize, and I want to drive home with you, your friends, your neighbors are not projects, they are people. And they are looking for someone who will not shove a conclusion down their throat, but actually trust them to have their own spiritual journey the way you did. And again, I think about my early attempts. The truth is, my heart was in a good place, but my strategies were just brutal. I knew the outcome ahead of time I wanted. What I wanted, I just wanted them to say yes so I could have another notch on my gospel gun and then I could baptize them that night and feel good about me, I guess. Somewhat good intentions, but terrible tactics. Here's the third quality. The third quality people are looking for in someone with whom they talk about spiritual things. Number 3, someone who has the confidence in sharing their own perspective. Someone who has the confidence in sharing their own perspective. See, after you've listened, really listen to your friend. Once you've given them space to come to their own conclusion, it's then, and only then, they are interested in us, then confidently sharing our perspective. Now, I call this paying the relational rent. Because once you've invested enough in the relationship by listening and loving them no matter what they ultimately decide, I'm telling you, you will have a permanent place in their life because you're a friend at that point. And then you'll be able to tell them, I believe, your story with confidence and the difference that the love of God and the life of Jesus has made for you. So I took that study, I took that research, all of that, and I began to look at the life of Jesus in the Gospels kind of differently, and I began to discover that in many ways, that's kind of what he did. He listened without judgment. You go back to the Gospels, Jesus asks way, way, way more questions than he ever answers. And he spends a lot of time listening. Read it in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. He also allowed others to draw their own conclusions. Think about the rich young ruler. He presents the truth to him, but it says the rich young ruler, he went away sad. He let him pick. He let him have his own conclusion. But Jesus also confidently shared the good news. He said, now I am the way. And so the more I studied his life and ministry, what began to emerge were like these 5 missional practices that I began to see Jesus use over and over again. As a friend, to love people, to bless people. And as we began to study these 5, what we did is we tried to make it more memorable. So we put it into an acronym, these 5, a memorable acronym that actually spell the word bless, B.L.E.S.S. And that's what I want to do. I want to give you these 5 simple missional practices. I'm telling you, if you will use these, you could live a life with no regrets, knowing that you are a person who loved people and showed other people God's love.